Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of BadgerBlitz TV. I'm Jake Kokorowski, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics, from the recruiting trail inside Camp Randall Stadium and, of course, on the court of the Kohl Center. Hope everyone's week is going well. We are kicking back up our weekly recruiting Q&A series with, of course, Rivals.com recruiting analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, man, good seeing you again, and thanks for making time this week. And, a lot going on for Rivals because they just updated the Rivals250 rankings for the 2023 class, and we're here to break those down a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy week. If I seem like I'm lacking energy, I just want to let you know I'm excited to be here and talk football and everything else, Rivals and Badgers. But I am lacking a little sleep right now.
Absolutely. And so for those that don't know, if you guys go to BadgerBlitz.com, it's actually right up on our on our board or on our page, right in the middle. Like, it's right up there, folks. And so we had, talked to John McNamara, who's our editor, recruiting analyst, and he said there are 46 players that the Badgers have offered in the 2023 class that are part of that Rivals 250 rankings. What I wanted to do is kind of just break down and ask you about this. This is what our show's going to be. We have one subscriber question we'll get to today before we end this. We'll keep this around 10, 12 minutes tops. But if you could explain to us just what goes into the creation of the Rivals 250, and even this is an update, right? So how are the rankings updated, and how do you evaluate talent that was either there before or not, or whatnot? What goes into the process of naming the Rivals 250 for a particular class?
Yeah, so this is something that we work on throughout the year. We work off a main spreadsheet with the national analyst team, with each of us national analysts, and there's a small group of us. And basically, we're in charge we oversee an area. And so we'll have somebody, with the West Coast, we've got down South, we've got the East Coast, we've got the Southeast, we've got me in the Midwest and Plains. And so I need to be the authority on the players in my area. And what we do is we work off this spreadsheet throughout the year. We're constantly evaluating kids, adding them to the spreadsheet, assigning them what may be their final rankings. And then what we do as this spreadsheet is built up, then we sit down and we have meetings that last for 8, 9, 10 hours on end. And we go through position by position, and we look at the new players added. We look at the players that were already there. We look at the players that were already there. Have they gotten better? Have they given us a reason to move them up? Have players maybe not developed the way that we thought? Have players maybe receded totally? And so we look at all of the players that are ranked from the lowest 3-star to the highest 5-star, and we go through there. And position by position, we will kind of debate where guys should be. And if you feel very strongly about a guy from your area, others feel strongly about guys from their areas. And we will sit there and maybe watch the film, compare the film, look at what they've done, where we've seen them, who's seen both in person. And we kind of go through it that position way, and then build within the position where we want to rank the guys. So depending on how many players are in a position, receiver's going to have a lot more than center or fullback, which we don't really have any of anymore. And we'll work our way down the list. And then at the end of that, when we are done going through position by position, we take all of the guys ranked between whatever it may be, a 5.6 or a 5.7 3-star to a 6.1 5-star. And then we go through and we will take that whole list, and then we'll group them by tiers. And then within each tier, we will say, where does this guy fit within the tier? And then we debate some more, and then we compare some more. And then, so there's a lot that goes into it, and it's an evolving process. So A lot of people get mad that they're not ranked this at this time or that at this time, or that they dropped or moved. That isn't finalized until the very last rankings are released. Sometimes we go out on a limb and rank a kid higher than maybe they should be ranked early on, and they drop. It's not anything against the kid. It's more that we thought that they might end up something different. And we were very impressed with them. Just because they drop a little in the rankings doesn't mean that we're not impressed with them anymore. This means a lot of the time there's new players who weren't ranked before who come onto the scene and they go up in ranking. So a lot of the time when we're looking at this, there's positions of value. A lot of it is based off the draft. Just like the draft has the 32 picks or whatever in the first round, we typically end up having 5 stars around 32 in each class. And then especially with those guys, it comes to position of value. There is not a lot of kickers or maybe linebackers or
right.
even necessarily interior offensive linemen or even running backs that are drafted high in the first round or in the first round period. And so we weigh it according to that, because at the end of the day, 5 years from now, when everybody wants to rip us apart, or when the Super Bowl comes up and they point out to the one guy who didn't have stars or whatnot, that's what we're judged off. So we have to project that, and a lot of that is based off that. You know, you will have maybe the top 1 or 2 linebackers in the nation will get jumped and drop in the rankings as it goes on each time, because a player of positional value goes in front of them that was not part of the rankings before. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not an exact science. I mean, you look at the NFL, those guys, the NFL has, 4 years to look at these kids. They have a combine. They invest tons of money in interviewing anybody from their childhood friends to, their next door neighbor in college. And they do, psychological evaluations, and they still miss. So it's not an exact science. But I feel fairly confident in what we do. And it is proven to be, especially from a statistic percentage, a good projection of success at the college level and future NFL draft, status.
Now, looking at that too, taking it from a Wisconsin angle, obviously being part of BadgerBlitz.com, which players in that Rivals 250 do you feel Wisconsin fans should be on the lookout for? I know that probably maybe starts with, I know that you base your stuff out of the Midwest, but you're looking at someone down, I believe, in Louisiana with Tackett Curtis.
Yeah. So they have offered, and John had, what did he have? 46?
He said 46.
I only counted 45, so John's probably, he probably is right on that one. I have 45 that Wisconsin had offered. He has 46, so whatever. But 4 of those players have already committed that they have offered. And so that comes down to a smaller group. The ones that stand out as potential, guys that Wisconsin will be in it with in the end could be, like you said, Tackett Curtis. I haven't done a deep dive into his evaluation. I know he's a heck of a player. He's out of Louisiana. You don't usually see a lot of Louisiana kids on the Wisconsin roster, but I think he's a guy that they have identified and made a priority. And by doing so, they have put themselves in a good position. And then the other thing that you look at with that is the success that Wisconsin linebackers have had. When you say the name Watt to a kid in high school who watches the NFL, that means something. When you look at the linebackers this year in a #1 defense, that means something. Now, it's not going to mean something to everybody, especially a kid in the South who wants nothing to do with the Colt or the Big Ten period. But I mean, he is one of those guys that will be in it. Avery Johnson is a guy that I think they recently or somewhat recently offered. He's a dual threat quarterback out of Kansas. He's on the thin side right now, but he is an incredible athlete. He's in a legit 4.5 or so 40 kid. He's got a little Johnny Manziel to him. Plays with a little cowboy to him. He can run. He can throw. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that Wisconsin would be very excited to land. He's in our Rivals 250. Amari Snowden is a kid out of Michigan. Very long corner. High upside kid. He might project a safety. He has a corner skill set. He has some big offers. But when I remember talking to him months back, Wisconsin was a school, I think it was months back, I don't know, I talked to so many of them, but Wisconsin was a school that he did mention. Wisconsin's had success in Michigan, so those kids are familiar with Wisconsin. It's easy for them to get down to campus. So he's another guy that I'd look for them to be in. Some of the other ones that they've offered, there's a lot of guys down south who are just going to be really hard to get. They're with the Alabamas and those sort of teams. But, I look at some of the guys closer to the Midwest that I'm familiar with, like a Caden Fagan, Chandavian Bradley, who's an absolute stud, a very long pass rusher. He's shown his interest in staying in the Midwest as Iowa State, and he's out of Missouri, but Iowa State is a school that's high up for them. I know Wisconsin's offered. Now, his offer list is getting ridiculous. He's a guy that if he fills out might end up being in the 5-star conversation. Incredibly talented rush end. I don't know where they'll be in the end, but they have offered. Joshua Mickens is another rush end out of the Midwest in Indiana. You've got Caden Green, big offensive lineman out of Missouri. It's going to be hard to beat Missouri and some of the, he's starting to get Alabamas and that sort of thing. Charles Jagusa, a guy out of Illinois, towards the Iowa border, very raw but talented offensive lineman. I could see them having a chance in him. Who else? Kendrick Gilbert, defensive tackle, out of Indianapolis as well. A player I really like. He's a top 50 guy. Notre Dame might be a hard school to beat for him. Malik Elzy, receiver out of Illinois, very good player, big physical receiver. Michigan was a big one for him early on. With the stuff with Harbaugh, he kind of lost contact with them. So you never know. Wisconsin could get in with him. Marvin Burks, a big-time safety out of St. Louis. And I think, signing Chris Brooks and getting that St. Louis kind of path open again could help there. And he's a guy that when I talked to him, he wanted to get to Wisconsin for a game and check that out. So those would be the guys of the 250 that I think they'd have the top chance at. But like the ones at the top that I named, Avery Johnson, Tackett Curtis, Amari Snowden, are probably their best bets. It doesn't help that they don't have an in-state kid in the Rivals 250 this year like they did last year.
Clint, man, we'll save the stuff coming up, more stuff for next week coming up, man. Appreciate you as always. What do you got coming up on Rivals.com moving forward?
Oh gosh, we've got we're going to continue to release guys who were awarded stars for the first time this week. We're doing our position breakdowns. We have offense today that will be coming out. A few have been released this morning. We've got defense tomorrow, I believe. Tomorrow's Thursday. Friday, we will be releasing our state rankings, so updating those for the 2023 class. And then after that, we will be moving on to the 2024s, and we'll have our rankings meeting for that at the end of next week. And then those will be released, I believe, a week or two later as well. And then always we've got our camp series, Rivals Camp Series, where we invite the top players in the nation. That's coming up, and that will be starting in LA in 2 weeks. We do have one in the Midwest in Indianapolis. So that's what we have coming up.
Excellent. As always, looking forward to talking to you next week, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Folks, that's Clint Cosgrove, of course, from Rivals.com. I'm Jay Kokorowski. We'll come back next week with another recruiting Q&A. Stay tuned. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a great week. Be healthy. Stay well. We'll talk to you soon on BadgerBlitz.com.